Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain. I would like to thank my patron supporters over at patreon.com/bsmpod. Got too excited to do the URL link at the very end, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is we have an amazing up-and-coming commentator person, a former variety streamer, now leaning into Melee a little bit more, leaning into... Oh, I was going to say RuneScape. That's not right, is it?
No, that is incorrect. I've only played the modern RuneScape. I'm not gonna lie. I've never played OSRS, and know people in the comments might start getting mauled. But no, yeah, I also focus in the Japanese RPG variety as well. That's those are my main two niches that I announced at the start of the year were Melee and JRPGs. Those are my main two forms of content that I focus on over on my Twitch stream.
Okay, so the JRPGs. This is Stelios. You can find Stel over at Stelios_TTV on Twitter, and on Twitch, the main hub. If you want to get more Stel in your life, twitch.tv/Stelios_. Is that 2 underscores, by the way?
Yeah, it has to be 2. So when I was making my account, I tried 1, but I think it was taken, so I had to do the double, and it was fine. I know for a time, I think Slox here in New England also had to use the double, but I think he changed it to Slox SSBM in more recent times. So I'm not the only one. Some people do it before their name, or some people do it at the end. I do it at the end, so it's easier to read, and then I think it makes more sense. But yeah, no, my Twitch has 2 underscores in it. Hopefully one day it goes away in total. I remember the days when Ludwig used Ludwig Augerin as his Twitch, and now it's just Ludwig, obviously, but that's on YouTube now as well. So slow and steady. We'll get that name changed hopefully in the future for SEO reasons.
Well, you know that Ludwig paid the person who had the twitch.tv/Ludwig, paid the person who had the YouTube/Ludwig. I mean, that's how the world works. I know that Killa OR complained about not having the Killa OR tag on Twitter. He had to do NYC Killa OR, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he said somebody made it and is now holding it ransom over me, and I'm not going to pay for it.
That's happened. Sometimes you gotta kind of like stick people up for certain things, and then you gotta just it's kind of like a stick up basically at a bank. Like that's how I see it. Like they'll kind of just go in, demand like whatever the ad is, just kind of fork over the money. That's what Ludwig kind of had to do, and that's what like you just described that story as well. And I'm sure there are countless other people out there too. I don't know what Slox had to do or what decided to do when he changed his Twitch over to what it is right now. But it's a whole venture in itself, and this is all still in the social media part of the podcast. But happy to be here too. So
no,
yeah,
I'm taking a little bit too long, but I have one more to pitch for you. One more. Stelios JRPG SSBM. How about that?
That wouldn't be bad. I mean,
that would be bad.
Yeah, that's like there are all those people on Twitter that have like the underscore SSBM SSB thing. I was personally one of those people at one point, but I did eventually change it to TTV when I was like more so going into Twitch. But then I'm going to keep it the way it is. Obviously, one day it's just my name, but that's going to be pretty hard to do. So like there are countless people out there who have that. I've never seen like a combination of 2 different niches in that, because I feel like you're putting too many eggs in one basket or make it too complicated for people to find you in a very SEO dominated format. That's why you gotta separate your tags in some way. This is like a whole YouTube algorithm / like Twitter algorithm thing I'm talking to now.
Yes, there's a process behind being a content creator. Some people think it's easy. You press a button and go live, but it's complicated, and you have to, this is a podcast word, you have to pivot. So, Stella, tell me about this whole variety streamer idea. Now you want to focus more on the JRPGs. You want to focus a little bit more on Melee, where it's going to be less of, hey, let's just do what's kind of a mix of popular games that I like, games that are good for streaming, kind of leaning into more 2 niches instead of trying to do a little bit of everything. What was the main idea of switching from one focus of your Twitch stream to another?
So towards the last quarter of 2021, I had just finished coming off of Dragon Quest XI, one of my favorite games I've ever streamed, and I kind of transitioned over to more regular stuff. I was doing Breath of the Wild a good amount, but I feel like the engagement wasn't there as much, and I started to think more about what I should be doing. Like maybe I should change some things going into the new year. And at the same time as all this was happening, I was still going to Melee events. I was attending locals, regionals more specifically. And then I went to Super Smash Con as well. My Super Smash Con vlog was all shot by me. It was done on my phone. I did a lot of stuff at Smash Con, which kind of garnered a lot of attention like there and like after the event was over, I feel like. So towards the once that content started going out, my Melee content has always been, I feel like, some of my more popular content for the scale of creator that I am. And then I've always had a passion for the RPG genre. I've kind of grew up playing the genre, to be fair. fair. And when not playing Melee, most people think about me playing that kind of thing. I have a whole audience that comes for that, and the audience as well that knows you from the Melee scene. So I'm balancing two different things here. And I was talking with friends, a lot of my stream VIPs, some IRL friends, and they kind of suggested I should just go all in on that. So I took a holiday break from content creation and streaming at the end of the year around Christmas time. And I spent like about a week and a half kind of writing stuff out. I wrote a whole presentation about, which is there's a video out there on YouTube you can go and watch, just detailing everything. But the mentality basically was it was to do stuff that I actually like really wanted to do, kind of like hone in and like do Twitch content on this, YouTube content on this, original YouTube content on blah blah blah, do Melee React bits of a video once per week, all this different stuff that I want to focus on because I feel like it's just like something I care about. And I told my stream this as well, is when Melee's 20th anniversary was happening, I watched Turn Down for Walt's video about the 25th anniversary, which is a fantastic video. If you have not seen it, please go and watch it. And I reminded my stream that if I had never got into Melee at all, then I would not be streaming. It's like the key thing that pretty much led me to check more on Twitch and just to kind of be like a broadcaster in some way was when I went to Melee tournaments, like between 2014 and beyond, basically. Like that's what kind of exposed me to like the greater market, like just like the general esports market, and maybe just want to look into this stuff more. And it helped me kind of find a beginning in commentary and podcasting, and then kind of just eventually grew into me being a variety streamer starting out and now being more focused as a Melee creator and a JRPG creator. I think with what I have planned for the year, I think it'll suit me a lot better as long as I play my cards right, that is, and like, you know, be smart, work smart, not hard is my big thing this year, which is why I might be streaming less, but it's also because I'm working on stuff off of stream, whether it be doing IRL content for Melee, whether it be making monthly commentary highlights, which I'm planning to do. I already have a lot of VODs downloaded from the past like week alone from commentary. So there's a lot to do. But I think it's got me a lot more excited, and I feel like I'm accomplishing a lot more than I was just kind of going through the motions, doing what I did with Flex stuff towards the end of last year. And I think while it may not be as fruitful, if that's the right word, starting out, I think it will eventually have like a steady growth over time is what I can hope for. And it'll just be growing growth upon growth, having a steady pipeline of content from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. And to anyone who's listening, they would say that you have a vocabulary of a streamer, to put it in simplest terms possible. I think that there's a time where if you're going from Melee tournament to tournament, starting in around 2014, like you said, and you're sort of bouncing around and you get inspired to do this whole content stuff a little bit yourself, it doesn't all happen right away. So how do we get from Stelios, the person who's going to tournaments and is going 0-2, to where we are right now?
Where we are now. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like my origin story too. Yeah, so I started going to tournaments 2014, and I was a high school student at the time, and I basically was going to events with some of my local friends in New Hampshire. I went to, I think, Super Smash Saturdays back in Merrimack. Shout out to people I met there, that being Grown Working Man, aka Get a War Machine, aka Jesse, Infinite Numbers, formerly famously got ninth at Pound. See Calvar, Glockamai Toyota, Golden, who I think later went to those events. A lot of people I met from the New Hampshire scene came from there. And over time, you know, I started like going to events more. I was entering tournaments. I did pretty well for myself starting like in 2016. But then I was going to college at the same time as this. So while I'm at college, I'm also like focusing on my studies. Because I told my friends from the start, I'm going to college to study, not so much for Melee. If I wanted to go to college for Melee, I would have went to UNH. Saying that right now, but I didn't go to UNH, so I wanted to focus on that. So Melee kind of took kind of towards a backseat after like 2016 a little bit, but I still followed the scene at least. And like while I'm at school, I'm learning more about business, marketing, branding, social media, all that stuff. I'm finding ways to present myself to a market of some kind, whether it's an entrepreneur, a professional, marketer, blah blah blah, all business stuff I can talk about another time. And as I graduated college in 2019, I decided to, in the summertime, find a podcast. That podcast was about professional wrestling because I'm a huge wrestling fan. And that eventually then segued into me now gotten more behind the microphone, like not live and more recorded, to then start live streaming. And that's what kind of like eventually led to me doing more microphone stuff. Yeah, it's a very interesting journey, but it lets me just becoming like more comfortable behind the microphone. And I feel it plays a big part to what I do now for Melee, which is now that lane tournaments came back last summer. Here I am commentating tournaments usually like at least once a week, ideally these days. It was quite kind of more sparse back then because I was kind of getting back into things in the summertime. and trying to find like things to do for content with around Melee. And would I compete again? I'd say probably not, like competitively, like seriously. I probably won't take it seriously again unless I like, really want to focus on it. I do consider myself more of a community person, supporting my community, doing what I can for it, and broadcasting events, wanting to help production at events too, maybe in the big picture. So, but it all kind of just came from meeting people, making those connections, just like trying to find like meeting in the community, basically. And now that I think I've found a good role for it, I just think it's a matter of time before, I really just go all in and just find like more of a solid place.
Or JRPGs. You said you've been playing that for a very long time too. This is childhood Stel going, yes. Oh, yes. Now, with me and RPGs, I don't even know if I know what it stands for. Does it stand for role playing game?
That would be correct. And the J in that stands for Japanese. So
Right.
typically they come from people out in the East. So your Final Fantasies, your Dragon Quest, your Xenoblade series games, those are all under the JRPG umbrella. So that's where they usually come from. Yeah.
I have a question. Isn't that basically you taking turns against the opponent? It's kind of like Pokemon, but in a very different sense.
Yeah, it could depend from game to game. Most of those ones I mentioned, sans Xenoblade, are turn-based. Xenoblade is more of an MMORPG. It's also kind of like most in real time. But yeah, most of them are follow that format. Obviously, technology has changed in more recent years, so yeah. But like some are like active, some can be turn-based. It really depends on which one. There's a lot of different ones out there for everyone's fancies.
Yeah, so it doesn't capture my fancy because I look at something where I have to take turns and I go, oh, that's so lame. That's unfortunately my stance. So I always love playing Smash because everything was at the pace that you wanted it to be. So as fast as you wanted it to be or as slow as you could try and make it. Of course, Smash being beautiful because there's another person who's trying to dictate the pace of the match, blah, blah, blah. And everything's right in front of you. See, I didn't really like first-person shooters either because while that's sort of the same deal, half the time when I'm playing on a map, even if I know the map well and I have an idea of where other players, what other people that I'm trying to hunt for, shoot, whatever, blah, it's a first-person shooter, you get it. They just jump out and I go, ah! So when I play Smash, it's all right in front of me. Everybody's right there. There's nothing crazy happening. And when I saw competitive Melee at first, I didn't quite understand everything that was happening. But then as I started to understand more and more of the techniques, everything's just right there. And that really vibed with me. The action, the pacing vibed with me. So when it comes to you and something like an RPG where there's a little bit more of stop and go action, if you will, it's kind of going from the idea of soccer. I compare soccer to Melee sometimes, and then football is something that's, it's stop and go. You go back and forth between those two things. So is there anything that's in common or contrasting from each other that you really like about RPGs to Melee?
I think the big thing that can be applied to both, more so the competitive stance for Melee at this point, is storylines. So a big thing that kind of gets me into JRPG, for example, the most recent one, Dragon Quest XI, was the story and the environment. And the thing I relate to that with Melee is that there are a lot of storylines in Melee. I mean, we'll get into one later on, which has been going on for a couple of weeks. So, like, you find something to get invested in, and like you eventually develop like some sort of passion, some connection to the story. Maybe it teaches you something out of it. And I do connect it to Melee because Melee's taught me a lot of things. You can get invested in this like up and coming player who's like working their way through the same. Like, I think someone I think of right away when it comes to like that kind of arc they went through to develop was Infinite Numbers. And also I think of Toussaint a lot as well. One of my favorite buff players is a puff player. Like I see a lot of those guys just grind it out, and I compare it to that in like a character development arc or a story progression arc in some way in a JRPG, like DQ11 or Xenoblade, blah blah blah. There's all different ones out there, and like it all just like kind of resonates with me too, because like you can learn something out of it. For me, like it Melee, I kind of learned when I played Infinite Numbers a lot in my basement here at my house, and I housed him for a couple times. Like we just play Melee a lot, and I would just learn more from playing him. You give some tidbits here and there. We just have fun as well. And then with like an RPG, I'm just sitting here with my chat talking about what's going on in the game. Oh, this is cool. Like here's this talk. We're gonna talk about what we think about this going on right here. How do I personally react to it as well? The react bits are incredibly strong because like when you go to an in-person event, whether it's a local or a major, you see this incredibly exciting moment. The crowd goes crazy, all that stuff too. You'll have a similar moment to that if you're really invested in a story in an RPG, of course, to a different extent as well. It could be a happy, emotional, sad, anger, blah blah blah. Like it takes you for a roller coaster of emotions. And like connecting like these storylines together across both, like you see countless different ones, as I said, and that's one big thing. The other big thing is like the gameplay, of course, very different. Melee is constantly going. There's something going on in each game, which is fine though. But I think it's kind of shows that I'm just kind of open to things as well. Where it's just be like, yeah, I like the fight. I like the fast-paced action of Melee. And I also like how things can be like more slower, but things can get quicker in RPGs depending on the one you play, And I think something I had a lot of fun with too. This is more from a commentary aspect as well. Like something that I think is really big for commentators is telling a story, and especially if you do like at a high level as well. Like I was watching back this video that Melee Zombie posted, and it was Tavakins kind of analyzing and talking about Scar's commentary from I think it was Mango versus Hacks, sorry.
No, and
From
I know what you're gonna say because
yeah,
he's like a wrestling match, and
pretty much
yeah.
because the thing about Scar, and like this goes back to kind of like the bringing that commentary, bringing like that emphasis and telling a story is that he knows all these points that the chat might not know, and he is elaborating that story to the people watching at home or watching on YouTube, for example, so they understand like what exactly happened behind the scenes going into the set. And if you want to watch this video in full, I'm sure we can link it down in the description below if you want to watch it in full. It's a great video. I really like that video a lot. I watched it on my stream to react to. It was awesome because like you really get a glance of like what Scar brought to, or brings, I should say, to Melee commentary. I think it's like something like big I want to see a lot of people work on, especially if you're already like naturally charismatic. You like talking a lot about what happened behind the scenes. Or like, okay, it's also like, oh, this person got PR'd recently. They haven't played this person before. Let's see what happened. Let's see how they adapt. All that stuff. All three of those things, the RPG story, Melee community storylines, and the commentary side of storylines, are all like one intertwined thing that can kind of keep myself and several other people invested.
And I love the part where, like you said, you're connecting those things together. They don't have to be one and the same thing, by the way. I just love how everybody sort of connects something like Melee to something else that's important in their life. They can see at least one similarity, whether it's because of the stories or if it's because of the training that you have to do to become excellent at Melee. All kinds of different angles. So for you would say it's more of the storylines, and that's really cool. But can I push back on that Tafo video on the Melee and On Me YouTube video?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here's the thing. If I were to say, let's talk about how great of a commentator Toph and Scar are on the mic, I would bring up EVO 2016 Grand Finals because that's a fantastic example. They're at, in many ways, they're sort of at their peak. Why would I bring up a top 16 match where they're just starting to get warmed up and it's a wash 3-0? There's barely anything to talk about. I mean, Scar might even be like talking about his plans of what he did earlier in the day, what he's doing later in the day. I'm just saying, Melee doesn't always. And for commentators, is it fair to expect to pull out a Big House 4 Mango versus Hacks set for each and every part of your commentator block? Because I don't think that's fair.
I mean, like, I think it depends. I think someone like Scar can get away with both because, like, he, like I said, he has the natural charisma for it, and he gets people invested in it. That's the key thing. It could be like something like where he's shooting the shit like that and just saying whatever, like, oh yeah, here's a storyline, here's the beef, here's what Mango's doing. He's not playing his main, all that jazz. And then you go to EVO 2016, which is like the entire different story because it's two sides of the coin here. Because like EVO 2016 at the time, I think it still is. This is the biggest Melee event ever in terms of entrance. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely at least up there, but I know it was one of the biggest. I think it was the biggest one
at
ever.
At least for IRL, yeah, because maybe a tournament in 2020 broke it by like, just raw numbers, but it was definitely for IRL numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like you look at two sides here. They're two different stories, and they're in two different environments. I would say, sure, they are both majors, but EVO, at least to me at the time, was like the one obviously to be. Yeah, I consider Genesis a bigger deal now, but we'll get to that later. But like, they're talking about this HBox finally getting to the mountaintop basically against Armada, someone he could not really beat at that time, and he never really had won an EVO before to that point. So yeah, like being able to say, hey, he's never won this before, this could be his first EVO win. He gets the reset, all that stuff happens, the moment happens, like wow, he actually did it, and it's like a huge congratulations too. But like looking at it, I think it just shows like how skilled they are as well as casters. You can go from the more like having fun, talking about this like fun beef that's going on between these two, to the more esports approach that I call it for like the EVO scenario as well. So the fact that they are able to be multi-skilled and talk about both ends of like the fun side and more of like the serious esports side, I think only should commend what people like Scar, what people like Toph, Homemade Waffles, Phil especially. Phil's one of my favorite casters of all time, can do that sort of thing too. Like I can just commend them even more.
So you have a plan for 2022. You're going to go a little bit of Melee, a little bit of JRPG. But what if one starts to pop up versus the other? Do you have a rough idea of what you want to do in the event that the scale starts to tip towards one or the other?
I think it'd be a scenario where I would talk to my community about it. Like if they still want to see me like focus on this one thing more, because I haven't really posted a JRPG video this yet. It's currently week 3 of the new year for my content, and I do have a JRPG video for Dragon Quest XI dropping this week, but it's from I think summertime when I was playing through the game basically, because we're still working through those VODs. I'll be curious to see how it performs, and as I'm working on Melee content more, because I'll have another Melee React video out soon, I'll have my commentary highlights for January out around early February as well. So it's going to be curious to see how the analytics are and how people are engaged with the content. If I do see Melee or one of the others start to pop off more, it's definitely a community thing to talk about. Like, hey, what do you guys think? Should I just like do a little bit of this more often? Maybe like cut back, like maybe like do this like once a month, do Melee content weekly, and then drop this here and there. So it's definitely something I got to think about. I ideally want to do both because I have YouTube original content planned for JRPG content, like my retrospective series. There's a lot planned for Melee, as I've talked about in length already. So yeah, like moral of the story would be reflect, look at analytics, talk to my community that I would develop as well about what they would want to see more if we did have to change things. So, but right now it's just like you got to read the room. Like you just got to read the room and see how it goes. You know, Ludwig taught me that. Read the room, see how it is, and then that kind of go from there. You know.
I love how Ludwig is a person who, in many different ways, sort of leads the Smash sphere forward in terms of how we go about doing content creation, because very, very successful, and also I think handles everything pretty well. So that's an obvious example of someone who I would say I would look up to in terms of like direction, handling things, blah, blah, blah. Although not necessarily with accidentally spending $50,000 on Cowboys tickets, but anyway.
True.
Anyway, would you say that Ludwig is up there for you, or who would be a streamer that you look to either growing the stream or now as like, this is that I'm trying to kind of capture this vibe or the level of connection with their community, like what they do, I really like, shout outs basically.
Yeah, Ludwig is someone. Well, I've known Ludwig for a long time. Those who don't know, I met Ludwig when he was still in New Hampshire. I met him in 2015 when he started playing Melee more. He went to a New Hampshire local in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I met him there. And he always remembered me from there, and it was before he went over to ASU. So seeing Ludwig kind of go from like this guy who was getting an amateur bracket at a New Hampshire local to where he is now is very, very surreal. And the fact that I can call him at least like an acquaintance/friend is very weird, because I think some of my fondest memories of him are like being in his stream chat when he started streaming, and then eventually meeting up at Shine 2018, just drinking beers in the back of the VIP room, just chilling, shooting the shit. It's crazy to see, but he's definitely one of my biggest inspirations in general, because I think he has a great charisma presence and all that. But there are some other streamers as well that come to mind of like, they kind of inspire me. A huge one, and I want people to look up this guy's name because I think he's incredible. Harris Heller, one of the smartest people in all of content creation, how to approach the situation, because he is kind of the reason that I was able to develop what I kind of became, like, how you start streaming, what you should do if X, Y, and Z happen. Should you do this? Should you do that? What equipment is good? Please watch the Alpha Gaming YouTube channel, soon to be the Senpai Gaming YouTube channel. And Harris also sponsors me in a way, because I'm on his stream team for Stream Beats. That is his property, and also listen to Stream Beats as well. I know it's a plug, but definitely listen to him as well.
You're allowed to plug whatever you daggone please. Exactly. This is your podcast episode, dude.
I'll do that at the end.
This is your podcast episode. So talk to me a little bit about how this happened, because I am curious. For people who are doing all this content stuff, one way to make income is for a big old whale to come up to you and be like, talk about my stuff. Okay, I will take this bag and I will keep it. And yes, I will talk about your stuff. Is that kind of what happened, or how did this Stream Beats happen for you?
Stream Beats, for those who know what Stream Beats are DMCA free, copyright free, so you can use in any of your content, whether it be Twitch, YouTube, blah, 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 anything you can use it in or post about, you can use it. So I started playing Stream Beats around the time that they were kind of new in summer of 2020, and I kind of just repped them a lot. I used it a lot on my content. I would tell my friends about it on stream, tell people about them naturally as well, because I just thought the music was generally good. Like, it's just good background music. That's literally what it is. And I supported Harris and the producer Ryan, who actually just released a single recently as well. I actually listened to it on my stream, and it was actually a really good listen. He was in my chat for it too. Shout out to Ryan. He's also a big Mango fan, is Ryan. So shout out to Ryan King if you're watching this. Love you, man. But yeah, it kind of happened, and at the start of 2020, Harris announced that Senpai Records, which is the record label for Stream Beats, will be doing weekly releases for Stream Beats, and they would also starting a Twitch team. And what they would do is that they would randomly pick, I think, 5 people a day to join the Twitch team. I put my name in the hat. I think around February time, I was pulled to join the team. So in a way, yeah, I am sponsored by Stream Beats or affiliated with Stream Beats at the very least. And I usually I rep their brand on my channel. I affiliate with Stream Beats in the corner of my channel, and I usually just plug their content or plug their stuff in my YouTube description. If you look at my YouTube descriptions for my videos. Also, it's it's really friendly. I know Ryan said that I rep the brand really well, and actually in my Spotify Wrapped, I was in the top 1% of Stream Beats users as well, because I play it usually off stream as well, so it was actually really fun. So yeah, and I went into Harris's stream, and like the algorithm behind Spotify is that they think they make like a third of a penny per per song play. They calculated how many minutes I listened to stream. I think I made them like $40 alone in 2021 or something like that. So hey, that's cool. That's cool. Just playing on the background as I'm working on something for work or working on something for stream.
So many hours, all for $40.
Yeah, it's crazy, but they've made a good amount of money off of it, I'd imagine. I don't want to go into that stuff.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, that's their information to know, not mine.
That's so cool though, because look, I mean, I have decided for now that I don't really want to do the whole ad read. I don't want to do the whole sponsor thing. What I prefer to think of is if anybody likes this enough, there's a Patreon link to follow, and that's it. Because I don't like the idea of like constantly interrupting and being like, it's shill time. And mainly I say that because I put myself out there enough that I already feel semi-uncomfortable. A little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit of introversion, a little bit of my personality is just to be like, just be low key, just be low key. Then why did you start a podcast? Anyway, I'm at war with myself. I think that the Patreon is good enough for me for now, but for you, you seem to have mastered the art of making it more of a natural thing. Like at first, Stream Beats was just something that you really enjoyed. And then somebody came along, Harris is saying, and Ryan are saying, yeah, what? Yes, indeed. Stelios just threw his hat into the ring, and I think we're just going to pick that right up and take advantage of that. So do you want that to be sort of the trendsetter, the norm thing, or is it not really the worst thing if somebody just drops in and says, like I was saying earlier, because that's not how it happened for Stream Beats, but I don't know. What if name brand, I don't know, Mountain Dew. What if Mountain Dew came up and was like, Stelios, we will pay you thousands of dollars to shell our Mountain Dew products?
I think it depends. Like, I'm a guy that rather be passionate about a product than just like know and make a lot of money off of it. Like, if I could get like sponsored by somebody else right now, I guess sticking in the drinks, I actually like to get sponsored by LaCroix. I'm not gonna lie. I think LaCroix actually are super, super good. Plus, like they're super good for you because like they're just essenced water. Like, I actually would consider like kind of looking into that honestly. But on the Stream Beat side of things, I think it's only the beginning because, like I said, Senpai Records, Senpai Gaming is like more of the record label, and they actually want to form an esports team eventually. And I think I want to talk to Ryan about it one day. Is that I want to see if they want to get more into Melee as an esports team, and see if they want to bring on like creators / commentators as well to represent them, because I would love to do that. And I know Ryan told me, I think the other day, is that they actually, I think Low Tide City used their songs in like their intermission screens as too, which is really nice. So like, but yeah, I think it depends. Like LaCroix would be a really cool sponsorship, I feel like. Maybe something else, like I'm trying to think of another good one, like maybe like Square Enix if they eventually reach out. Someone like Unalesca, who I think is sponsored by Square Enix, is a partner with them. That'd be cool to kind of eventually work towards. There's always like these different brands out there you can kind of like label yourself with or connect yourself to, that once you make enough of an impact with their brand, they might eventually notice that and kind of make you like a partner or an affiliate of some kind with them, and they'll send you like care packages and stuff like that, stuff to play a game with, or like send like a promo code for a game that you can then apply at checkout, and then you get a percent off that game. I know Jambo does that with some games that she gets on streams. And yeah, there's a couple of people out there who like work with like a cam. I'd be cool looking at a big picture. It's not really important to me right now. What's more important to me right now is kind of getting that slow and steady growth, and eventually like, popping off and then going from there,
Indeed. Ludwig didn't pop off right away when he started streaming. I'm not popping off yet, but yeah, I mean, hey, I'm actually having a very good time, and that's really the important thing. I said to myself when I started doing all this in 2021, just take your time, enjoy it for the simple act of creating and putting yourself out there. This is a thing. Good for you, Jesse. Okay, cool. So I like that approach that you have as well. There may be an illusion of, oh, I need to do XYZ because you either see other creators doing it, because eventually you start to network and connect, or because of what the top dogs are doing. but they're there for a reason, and we're here for a reason. So eventually, you sort of just find yourself getting to the spot where you're looking for. Where I am now, I would have said a year ago, oh, okay, cool, wow, that probably would take a long time, but it's only been a year, so right for that. I think the best way to sort of round out all of this stuff is to, I think the best way to round it up is to talk about how there's GG Toph, and there's there is Ace Heihata.
Yes.
Content creators within Melee being sponsored, not just because they're doing all the views, Awesome Sauce gets picked up by Moist or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. Or Pokimane or someone like that, or Valkyrie, or
Yes.
like Nade Shot, like people like that.
But how do you ride that line? Because the implication to me is that Toph or Heihata, who are both people who I like, and I wish them all the best, all that stuff. But as I think about it right here in this moment, I think to myself, does that mean they're big enough but not big enough at the same time? Because sort of in the content creation game, you can theoretically get to be as big as Dr. Disrespect or Ninja, during the Fortnite days. Somebody who's breaking all kinds of streaming records, blah, blah, blah. Isn't that more of what a content creator is supposed to aim for as compared to joining an esports team or looking for like esports team sponsorships? Or would you say that both are valid?
Personally, I think both are valid, because I personally think if you're just going to do it on your own, it's going to be a lot harder, I believe, because like you kind of have to build it very naturally like Ludwig did. And it was really impressive when he did it back in 2018. I remember the whole fastest growing Twitch streamer arc. If you remember that in the comments, be sure to mention it. But for someone like, Toph, Hada, who are working their way up the ranks, especially someone who works with Hada in a way now and on, because as part of All Chat, not directly, but I work with All Chat for commentary now these days. But I think they eventually it's kind of like a stepping stone, basically. Like All Chat is a newer organization. They're not like a Cloud9. They're not like an EG. They could be one day for all you know, though. But as they eventually like grow more, so should the creator, and it's like a stepping stone to get to where people like Pokey, Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, Ludwig, Sykkuno, where they are as like sponsored creators, have a bunch of sponsors and have a natural community as well. So they help you along. They get your product out there. You do ads for whatever they're doing, like G Fuel, for example, or like Slim Jim, like that one time Cutie Cinderella prank Ludwig at that for his roast stream. So. And they all serve as a way to help you. They partner with you, so you could say, hey, I'm sponsored by X brand. Here's what we're doing today. Hopefully it gives you some exposure. Some will, some might not, but that's the nature of doing content. Some things might not work. Some things will stick. See the niches I've been talking about. But yeah, they serve as a stepping stone. As long as you keep at it and kind of branch out and get more sponsors, whether you're an esports creator like Toph, Hada, Homemade Waffles, Phil, they're more so casters, of course, but they kind of do a little bit of their bits here and there. Turned out for Walt is another good one, another great example. I mentioned him earlier. As long as they keep working at it, because Panda Global is a big team for Walt. They do a lot of work across the entire esports scene. They will help them build a resume or build a community of some kind. They'll get to them possibly to where they want to be. So let's say Walt eventually is like one of the top creators, not just in Melee, but maybe something else as well, but more so in Melee, of course, or like Toph continues to work at it as well. He becomes like a top creator alongside something else, alongside Melee, and they kind of keep at it and they just keep growing. Maybe they get attention from like a big creator. Maybe they collab with like Loic for his next big tournament happening a couple weeks from now, or a future like his IRL major he wants to do. That can only help them with exposure even more for people who don't know who they are, like Melee casuals, Slippy kids, maybe even some old kids as well. Like it all only benefits at the end of the day, in my opinion,
Yes, I like that output, or the outlook, excuse me. This is as good at a time as any. I think that we were able to cover you stuff enough. Do you want to cover anything else, or can we move on to the next topic of conversation?
Yeah, that should be good, because I think most things we kind of mentioned. I guess like commentary we already got kind of briefed into as well. We talk about more at the end if we want to. But yeah, the big thing, if you want to take it away, Jesse, it does involve a very recent topic, as like early as like Friday at time of recording. That would be like what, the 14th is when we heard. So you want to take it away? Go ahead.
Today's January 17th, just a mere 3 days after a revelation of sorts, if you will, where Genesis comes out on their Twitter and says Genesis 8 has been postponed until April 15th through 17th, something like that. You get it. And now, instead of the end of January being when the most legendary tournament series for Melee, I mean, okay, look, Evo is a thing, yes, but Evo is a fighting game tournament, and I love those tournaments. You know, the ones that involve Melee, DreamHack is an example, but Genesis is Melee, and in Smash in general, had some great, Genesis 7 had great grand finals, Mars taking that. All that to say, this is now the biggest tournament series along with the Big House that Smash has, that Melee has, and a lot of people were looking at the end of January, looking at all the COVID, Omicron stuff. They were looking at the top players dropping out, and they were going, Genesis is going to be a little bit of a crash and burn situation if this continues to trend in the direction that it has. And all signs pointed to more COVID numbers rising, more players, and especially top players dropping out. And for such a big event, one that involves many, many dollar signs, it was not going to be good. So there was concern for safety, first and foremost. There's concern for being able to operate not even just close to green. We're talking about just avoid the bottom of the red or the top of the red sphere. I mean, this is like the kind of stuff that can shut down a tournament like Genesis for good, because this is not backed by Activision or backed by Nintendo as it should be. It is backed by literally people who we know, people like Sheridan and Bobak, who have worked so hard and saved money, had to operate in red, had to operate in yellow, hardly be able to make much money off of the event once it's all said and done, and running massive thousands and thousands of entrants, pools, brackets, and everything else until we get to an awesome weekend, except when it involves COVID, it is so hard to predict. This was announced back in September, I want to say, around the time of Riptide, and that was so cool. Everybody was excited for Genesis. You, Stelios, you were planning on going to Genesis 8. Now, you had said on your Twitter, I think maybe a month-ish or about 3 weeks ago, that you wouldn't be able to go. That's sort of the timeline for you. But your reaction to this is what I would like to hear, because I've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. So when the announcement was made, I was commentating / waiting to commentate at a Garbage Connection run by Trey the Trash Man on his channel, and I was in chat, and it was broke there by a bunch of West Coast people that, hey, Genesis just got postponed. I'm like, what's going on here? But my reaction is I absolutely agree with the decision, because I think an event like Genesis, it needs to be executed and run safely. Especially if you're gonna have like 4K plus attendees at it, you need to make sure the conditions are safe to do it. And the current situation of things right now, especially in the Bay Area and other big cities, it is not a good way to do it, in my honest opinion. So while it was like, a scary and like crippling debt move for Sheridan and Bobak to move the event to April, I think it was necessary. And a big thing that I want to mention to that too is that people are talking about crowdfunding, refund issues as well, how we're going to raise money to help them out too. I genuinely believe that this community can round together and raise that money to help ease the crippling, or ease the pain that Sheridan and the team went through in moving the event to April, because I feel like we've done a lot for the scene. People like Ludwig are doing a big event. They can definitely help out with it too in some way, but I think there's a way that everyone that's going can help contribute to make Genesis more smooth, help it be stable for the future, because the big thing is if this event were to just bomb, or say the contract mess something up as well, there just wouldn't be any more Genesis events. And Genesis is pretty much it. I always describe it as the Super Bowl of Smash. It is the premiere of major every year that there is a Melee major, in my honest opinion. And without that, it just wouldn't feel the same. You think of Genesis, you think of Mango Armada. You think of Plup winning at Genesis 5. You think of HBox getting his first big one. You think of Zane winning at the last one. There's so much history added. And to think that there would be a year where it just wouldn't be as memorable if it went on the way it was supposed to, and it'd just be it'd be surrounded in a bunch of COVID cases, people getting sick. That's just not how it should be. It should be remembered the way that we all do. Some an amazing repertoire sets happening at the event, memorable moments, and people having fun, most importantly, but also being able to sit in the separate top 8 venue, which I think it's back in San Jose. I forgot the venue was called for top 8, and being able to watch it on the stage as it always has been the past couple of years and see more history be made, And I think it's a good decision, like I said, and I think there's something that everybody can do in some way to support Sheridan, Bobak, and everybody else that's putting Genesis together.
This is the kind of event that gets people into Melee when they're watching their favorite Ultimate players, and all of a sudden Melee's on the screen, and they go Melee, Melee, and then all of a sudden they get into it. I like to think about a friend that I've made since going back to the locals, which are technically at the moment all on hold, since we're also doing the same thing that most locals are doing around the country, around the world, just holding off until Omicron stuff goes back down. But I have a friend that I made over at the local who got into Melee because they were into Ultimate first. They're like the ult to Melee pipeline person, and to me that's incredible. But they're going to watch the big events of their favorite players, and then because Melee is the sick, awesome game that it is, it hooks you in. You get into that storyline of something one way or another. It's not always just through the documentary or through a big event like Slippy being released. Really big tournaments, prestigious tournaments, Super Bowl level tournaments like Genesis get people into the game. And for Genesis to not go well and super spreader, if you will, to bomb in just about every imaginable aspect, it would mean that there's one less big event that can potentially draw people into the community that we have here, the game itself, all the different avenues and ways to express yourself. I mean, I'm not just talking about content creation and also playing the game in Melee. You could literally become like that controller person, the person who can rep apart an entire GameCube controller, put it back together, and it's bigger, better than ever kind of a thing. There's all kinds of different ways you can grow in this year, if you will. And there's not really a big connector between the end of the year shenanigans like Summit and then the summer, which there might be an event like Double Down. I know that Double Down's trying to happen in the beginning of March of this year, but usually Pound is what I think of when it comes to a spring tournament, and that's normally around the April timeline. So it is really important, even if I'm being selfish, even if I'm saying, hey, look, I want to watch some high-level Melee. I need my fix. Is that between December and April, sometimes a really big tournament can be sparse, and Genesis is that one big tournament you can always depend on at the end of January. But that being said, I'm really happy that it was able to be postponed as compared to being canceled, because canceled is just about the worst news in this instance. The government has not ordered any sort of shutdown, and so the venue would say to the Genesis TOs, they would say, well, this is on you. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We signed a contract, so we need the money that you promised us. And without an event actually being run, like you said, no more Genesis. So the fact that this can still happen, that there's time between now and then to potentially, I mean, I know, okay, here's one thing that's definitely happening. TMT, Training Mode Tuesdays. Fedoran and the rest of the TOs around TMT are saying, hey, we are going to start charging a $5 entry fee. That is going to go towards a lot of things. But for now, most of that is going to go towards supporting the Genesis TOs to try to get back some of the lost funds of six-figure level funds. We're talking $100,000 plus. I know that most of us don't have that in our back pocket, so for a TO, a normal, not normal. Okay, look, Sheridan and Bobak are awesome TOs because they got Genesis up to this point, right? But still, a person who's not backed up by Omega level billions of dollars, Nintendo or anybody else. Nobody else is stepping up like that for the Genesis TO staff. So the way that the community can help is to do little things like that, and hopefully, I'm really hoping that Ludwig somehow does his online tournament this upcoming, like the Genesis timeline. He says he's organizing an online Melee tournament. I hope that does something, right? Or that we organize the event between now and April that does something. So little things are happening already. That's encouraging to see. So for you, Stel, with the April thing now, are you thinking about Genesis again as possibly wanting to go? I know you wanted to go to Genesis 8. You had plans. You registered. But what about upcoming April?
As of right now, it's more than likely it will go as long as things do dip back down in terms of case numbers. I would plan to go because I do have the time. The only other event that was planned for this quarter was Double Down. That I haven't even registered for that yet because I don't know what it's going to look like come March. But I think I would definitely make plans to go. I think it's just I haven't missed a Genesis since I went to Genesis 5 back in 2018. I usually go to Genesis every year. I make the cross-country trip from New England all the way over to NorCal.
Again.
Yeah, it's a cross country trip, usually about an 8 to 10 hour flight in total. But I make out for it. It's always worth because every time I leave Cali, I always go, I wish it never left. But I think about leaving Cali, I'm like, hold on, no, I'll rethink that. But
It's the
I
winter,
got
dude. Of course, you come
yeah,
back and the icy winds hit your face, and you go, "Oh, okay, not what
yeah.
I wanted."
Exactly, but it's like I definitely there's a good chance as long as things do improve, COVID wise, that I will go. I should have to rebook my flight, which shouldn't be too much of an issue as long as I get a decent price because I have credits back from Southwest, which is the airline that I used to fly there. So as long as I get that booked and like I talked to the people that I was going to house with, we should be fine. I think we're gonna have a talk about that pretty soon. I feel like in regards to what's gonna happen with that. So yeah, I'd say it's likely my major plan for the year. I think pre Big Omi, as I call it, was Genesis, Double Down, probably get on my level if it happens. I have no clue what Toronto's plan is to hold that event. SmashCon, because I love SmashCon in general. It's really easy for me to go to. Shine, which I know should be happening. I'm not going to talk something about it, but I know from inside sources here in New England that it should be happening. Big House, maybe, and then maybe something else too. But I definitely will be traveling around a good amount this year should things improve and not go crazy again. But yeah, I'd say like it's like a solid like 65, 35, 70, 30 chance I should be a Genesis as of right now, but it depends.
So you already talked about how you've gone to the past few Genesis. Can you tell me a memory that you have of the ones that you've gone to that stands out to you? And yes, you can talk about Plup if you want to. Plup Club.
That was the big one because I was sitting like second row from like the very front of the stage at Genesis 5. I was like from the corner. It was like me, Calvar, Val, Patty, a couple of people from
Wait,
around
Valerie Wonderland?
Yeah, that is correct.
Shout outs, friend of the
yeah,
show. Let's go, Val.
fantastic person. Miss her very much. Yeah, we were all there. We did see that. My other big ones, I remember I went to the after party at the Foundry after, hung out with a lot of people. Met some NorCal players. I think I played the Yoshi that won the Arcadian around that time too, in a friendly or two. It was pretty fun. I also really enjoyed my time at Genesis 6. Actually, it's my favorite Genesis I think I've ever been to. Well, because I had a lot of fun in that in general. It was a lot of fun seeing people again. I know I hung out with a lot of people. People out there like Lauren, for example, a fantastic artist. I miss her a lot too. A bunch of my roommates I hadn't seen in a while from college. My friend Parker, who was living in Nevada at the time, was out there. Spent a lot of time like going around NorCal. We had some great ramen one of the nights. Had a lot of time shooting the shit, having fun, and playing a lot of friendlies too. Because I think like just being able to play a lot of friendlies and like having a fun time, just talking to people, meeting new people. I remember I played someone who was PR in Oregon at one point as well at my first Genesis event, which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of back and forth friendlies with them. And then I guess like on the more humorous side, Genesis 7. I know at that tournament Loic had a booth, and that's how I inadvertently met H-Rock and Stan, so I didn't know who they were. So I was just shooting the shit with them. I didn't know who they were, but I know I'm like a 1 year plus H-Rock sub now. I was supposed to money match him at Genesis this one, but I think we're gonna push it back to April at this point. Yeah, I met them at that as well, and I remember H-Rock very much vividly told me to go watch the roast of the roast of Scar. Because I only seen bits of it at that point, so I couldn't remember everything. But he told me to go watch it and tell him what I thought. So I literally went to my room after that conversation and sat down like watched for like an hour with one of my roommates, and we had a fun time watching it. And there was another good bit. So after like the Lubbock table had kind of been breaking down, there was a sign. There was like 2 Midwest TOs there, and they had this thing like a little like piece of paper which had life advice on it. So they were gone. There's no one there. That piece of paper is still there. So I literally took the piece of paper that said life advice, put it on my backpack, and started walking around the venue with it and putting it at the set I would play at. And then people would walk up to me genuinely and ask for advice. They tell me their problems. So I was just like giving like random like shooting the shit and counseling advice to whoever walked up to me. Some of it was like actually genuine stuff. Some of it was just like regular like melee stuff. It was actually pretty fun. I remember I walked up to Lauren. She asked me how do I survive like this, and I just told her. I started shooting the shit too. So there's a lot of memories from each one. And like they're all good times. Like most of just having good times with people, meeting new people, inadvertently meeting the people who eventually got famous, all that jazz, you know.
How much is there, like, would you say is an urgency in regards to not missing this? Is it really a big FOMO thing for you, fear of missing out, or would you say you know that you're gonna have a good time, so of course you want to go to something when it comes to Genesis 8? Because I hear you wanting to go, but you also can't commit because, well, who can because of the whole COVID thing. But for you, what really draws you to Genesis in particular?
I think it's just because it's the legacy of Genesis. Like I could described it earlier. Like Genesis is like the premier event for Smash in general. I feel like, and being able to having a connection to the last 3 ones that I've been to, make it a yearly tradition for me to go every year. And like it's just a lot of fun. Plus, I just like the NorCal area I've been to. Of course, it was Oakland the first 3 times I went. This time will be San Jose. And I really like going in general. It's one of my favorite moments of the entire year to be able to go to that event. And there is some FOMO there. And of course, if it's more understandable for like COVID case, then yeah, it's understandable. But like in this new element of it being in April, and I have no idea where we'll be 3 months from now. But there is FOMO there. But I would definitely like to go. Just the appeal and like just seeing all these people come together from like across the world, because you don't really get to see like this many people from across the entire world come together in this venue in Northern California to play a game from 2001. Like that's already surreal in itself. And the fact that it's presented so well, so much goes invested into the event, it makes it all the more worthwhile. Plus, there's always new people that I meet there too. Like there's always like some kind of highlight where I just meet a bunch of new people that I still talk to sometimes from events like that. Smash Guys, I talked to a couple people that I met there too. So yeah, there's always something that I take away from that as well. And I can learn something there. If I end up getting a commentary block at Genesis after some reconsideration, I have no idea what's going to happen with that. Like it'll be fun to kind of meet someone new, get some more feedback on what I'm doing, get some more exposure basically as well. Like yeah, like it's just there's a lot to give to, and there's a lot to get from the event as well. And just being unable to go, it just wouldn't feel right, especially after going the past 3 years. It'd just be weird, especially if we're in a better spot by then.
Okay, so shout outs to Raul, shout outs to all the Australians who are here in the United States and seemingly for not now because of Genesis being postponed. Most of us are very understanding. Most of us are more or less, okay, cool. But I just feel so bad for those people in particular who travel internationally, because I'm here to not have jet lag. No jet lag, Johns. I'll be here for 2 weeks leading up to this thing. Or in the case of people who are on SOC, we're just going to be in the United States for a couple of months, and we're going to catch all these big events. And now Genesis 8 is not happening at the end of January, but instead they have another thing to look forward to. An online tournament. Woo!
Yeah, they'll be doing. They were in Garbage Connection. I know that on Friday. Sorry to cut you off, by the way, but you're kind of towards the end of that. I feel like they were in Garbage Connection on Friday. I know I saw them in the bracket, and I think did they do Giga Schwab? I'm not sure if they did Giga Schwab, but they'll be entering stuff at least. It does it does suck that they can't like go a couple miles or go a couple hours to go to Genesis, of course, and seeing where they are. But I don't know what their plans are because I haven't read too much of their situation, unfortunately. But I hope it kind of works out for them in the end. But the nature of like having to travel for that long, I know Leffen has like similar things too when he comes to the States. For of course not nearly as long of a trip, but he'll try and make out the stuff when he can. So it's tough. Like having a shell drop it could show like some of the drawbacks to postponing that close to the date. To be fair, which people have mentioned it was like 2 weeks out. But to be fair, we weren't really as aware how serious Omicron was about a month ago. That's part of my argument why like they kind of had to act on it, I feel like. But that's just me talking. So it sucks, but that's kind of the nature of how it could be sometimes in a global pandemic. I remember when CEO Dreamland happened, people had dropped out of that like real quickly, but there's still a good amount of people at that when that happened in March 2020 when everything started. And seeing the transition made, of course it had a lot of things to go through at first, but now we're kind of going back to there for at least a little bit. I'm sure they'll be able to adapt to it, and I just hope it works out for those lads, because you just don't want them to just feel like, what's the word here? Like disappointed, Which I'm sure there might be a little bit already considering the change, but I think they'll make the most of the best they can.
Yes, because that's all you can do. You get dealt a bad hand, and all you got to do is just keep grinding, pushing forward, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And you're right. The whole trick here is a month ago it was just before Christmas, and I think that whole holiday thing, you want to see friends and family, and or something that's quote unquote more contagious. That probably did have something to do with it. Speaking as a non-scientist, I'm just looking at the numbers and like that seems like a reasonable conclusion to draw. Mm-hmm. And it do be that way sometimes. So hopefully this whole Ludwig thing, I'm looking forward to it, because I think that hearing Ludwig and Slime talk about Melee while it's happening, occasionally shirtless, is a great different approach than the normal stuff. So I wanted to get back into the commentary question for just a little bit, because I know that we didn't talk about it as much as you perhaps maybe wanted to. Would you
course.
commentate shirtless? Is there a big draw to commentating shirtless? Do you think that it really draws up viewers in a way by commentating shirtless? Is there an art to it? Do you think that ultimately this is the meta that eventually people are going to realize the most popular streamers of in terms of Melee streaming shirtless while commentating is actually what we are all expected to do, and is that scary?
So I think it depends from person to person personally. Like I think that really depends on how comfortable you are showing off your body on camera. Personally, what I would do it, probably not, unless I got in like slightly better shape in my opinion. Like maybe like as a sub goal, maybe, or maybe like as like a donation goal, probably for my birthday stream, I might do that. But for someone like Lowick and Slime, it kind of does come as a surprise. Like knowing how their social medias are and like following them for years, seeing them like play like them without shirts on, playing Mario Party 4 at like Nick's house for a little while, and they take pictures of that as well. Literally, my desktop background is the picture of Slime and Aatrox's dad in the hot tub, because I come home to that every day and I just laugh at it because it's so iconic. So, but yeah, stuff like that. It's just like that's them. That is like you see that. Like, oh, it's Lowick and Slime just doing that. Because you just know their personalities at that point. They're just gonna do that for majors like that. Like I remember when they did it for. I think it was LCS 2. So I think I remember when that happened. And there's some other stuff that they just did it for. I'm like, yeah, that's just them. But you know, is there an appeal to it? Yeah, it's something called the bizarreness effect, which is something I learned in media effects or a media class in college. It's like you see something that just sticks out to you, and you just always remember it for that reason. You see it a lot of sporting events, like tailgating and all like the like kind of culture that goes around, like dressing up and all that stuff. It's kind of similar here, where like you see these two guys, at least two guys, and they sit down commentating Melee shirtless, like, oh, what's going on here? Why are they doing this? And so you just listen to them more, just like talk about, I don't know, like why HBox hogs the mic on commentary and how low it and Slime makes a funny example out of it, or how they're actually like Meds is playing really well right now and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, they're just having like a shoot the shit conversation about this. It's like, okay, then you learn more about their personalities, what they've done in the past. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's weird. And it's a contrast to when like I remember Off the Sticks, which was Lowick and Slime's like weekly Melee show they did with BTS. It's like they went from discussing bow ties and how to like what's better, a tie or a bow tie, to then just being shirtless, talking about like commentating like essentially an online major for like hours on end too, and people just be dealing with it because it's them. But moral of the story, your choice. Personally, I wouldn't do it, but I understand the appeal. If you want to get like a little bit more clickbaity action in there too, like put a cool thumbnail of it on YouTube, maybe get a couple clicks, maybe people will really like it for what you did with it. But you know, that's where I stand. I wouldn't do it, but if you want to do it, hey, more power to you. I'm not going to judge you for it.
Ludwig, Slime, and Bert Kreischer. Let's make it happen. Okay, so for you, how much preparation is too much preparation? Because one of the important things for you in commentating is being able to tell the story. So I feel like you can overcook stuff. I mean this in the nicest possible way, but there's a person who I had on this very podcast that I over prepped for and botched the interview. I still released it. You can go and find it and guess which one. But I put out over 100 podcast episodes, so you good luck. And the point is that I try not to do too much prep anymore. I'll be honest. I did only just a little bit for you, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Trustme.com. I really think that if I do too much, I'm juggling too much. Whereas if I don't fill my brain with things that I need to get out, then I can actually just get everything out, as compared to being like, I need to make sure, It's a whole thing. So for you, is there such thing as too much prep in regards to making sure you can tell storylines and be able to advance narratives, be able to put your own spin onto things? Sound like you know who the people that you're commentating on, because that really helps put stakes into it, because we all know the difference between commentators who are just talking about the match and they don't really know what's going on with the players. They just know the game. It's not as good as when the players the commentator knows the players. We go back to the Hacks versus Mango thing. Scar was talking to Mango about all this. Scar watched Mango and Hacks play in a hotel, do a money match or whatever, and reverse main, and Mango won, and so now they get to do it in front of the world and all that stuff. It really does make a difference.
Yeah, it does. So prepping for me, I usually prep at least a little bit for commentary, especially for bigger events and regionals, or like a weekly that is like stacked like Salt Mine. So when I did Salt Mine last week, I was given an hour notice by Slum. I was getting ready to stream on my own end, and then Slum Lord texted me on Discord saying, hey, what are you doing tonight? I need a commentator. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing this thing because I want to do it. So I spent like an hour before just like looking at who was on the attendee list, some people I did not know that well, and seeing, okay, what do they do, where are they ranked, what were their recent tournaments, blah blah blah. And I kind of have trying to have like a basic understanding of that player. And if I don't know a lot about that player, I ask my commentator, "Hey, I'm not familiar with this person. What do you know about them?" They kind of paint a better picture than I would, so we can kind of keep some kind of narrative going. And that can happen from time to time. I know I had it with Speedy Sloth at Smash Con, Fall Fest. I know Trey the Trashman has helped out a couple times with that as well for more Western focused matchups as well. So there is ad aspect, but obviously you don't want to over prep too much, because like, what if you prep for a set that you think will happen to bracket, but then it doesn't happen? Then you're gonna be like, okay, it's like, all right, hold on, it's not gonna be Mega versus Zane here. It's gonna be like Wizzy versus Zane instead. Okay, let's kind of work around this. Gotta remember what happened at this tournament, right on the spot. What if I forget about this, and this? So try and have like a picture frame, or like a couple bullet points of what you know about each person, or what you know about the bracket, and kind of just roll with what you've been given. Okay, be like, oh, this person upset this person. They actually did this well at this tournament recently, so this shouldn't be too much of an upset. Let's see what they do against them in this matchup, and then you kind of elaborate more on it. And then when the gameplay happens, like, okay, it's like, oh, Bobby Big Balls is like starting to show more of a reserve game right now, because he kind of wants to play around blah blah blah. Now he's doing more of a punish game because he's found an opening in this particular moment, and he knows that this person's going to do this right then and there because their past history. Let's see how they react when they come back. Yada yada yada. And it comes to the thing of like show not tell as well. You're able to show, hey, this person prepared for it. Let's not talk about it too much. It's like a whole like flow chart, or like overlay basically of what you can do during commentary for prep. But yeah, for me, I try to get at least a little bit in for bigger events, like a regional, like a Mass Madness. I definitely look at like, okay, what they've been doing locally in a region, or an outsider comes like, who's this out of stater, for people who might not know when they watch the stream, because I like what I like to do for people who might not know. Like when Skurzo came to Massachusetts, I know Makari, a commentator I had on alongside me, he asked who he was, so I had to explain to him in the chat who Skurzo was. So there's always a good benefit to prepping, but yeah, over prepping can like kind of tunnel vision it, because you don't want to be stuck in tunnel vision for too long. I'm kind of guilty of this as well. I feel like where I get like too focused in on the set and kind of forget about some other things going on. So you don't want to go too far. You want to paint a good like framework and work with what you're given. If an upset happens, hey, talk about it. Talk about what they might be able to do going on from here, and tell a story about, hey, can they upset this person? That person usually gets this person. Can that spirit kind of go on from there? And for the more unknown people, because like when I did my West Coast pools block for Giga Schwab, I didn't do any prep. That was kind of last second as well. Not gonna lie, but it was a fun like 90-minute block. So and there was this ice climber player called the Vega, who I didn't know who they were. I didn't. So me and my commentator were like, okay, they're gonna work through losers right now. We'll follow the Vega road to glory as a slump con. So I'd made the whole dynamic of Vega's losers run akin to a JRPG protagonist working from like the prologue to the mid boss to the final boss. Unfortunately, they lost the final boss because that was a match I think against Bobby Big Balls. But hey, they took a game at least, so they did all right. So there's always next time,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love the fact that you sort of have examples of you have an hour to work with. Granted, that is not eternity, but I think that's enough to get rolling on a salt mine bracket. And then you have the Giga Schwab where it's like, this is happening kind of now. You're also going to do West Coast, which is the region that you're not from. East Coast, that's awesome. Who's Skurzo, by the way? I need to know. I see the name a lot, but I can't think of who Skurzo is at all.
Yeah, Skurzo is a PR. I believe he's from Chicago, if I remember here. Let me type it in real quick. He is a Fox player from Chicago. I believe he's PR'd FERT. Now, he's currently ranked second in their Summer 21 power rankings. I'm not sure it's updated for more recently, but yeah, he's definitely at least top 2 in Chicago. I'm not sure if he got first place more recently in the state, but I know he's a high-ranked player. I first saw him at SmashCon when I commentated him versus JJM, which is actually a really good set. I think I commentated. That was a really fun set to commentate. But yeah, he's around there. He comes to like the occasional New England regional because I know he knows Trail. Trail famously had an invitational tournament back in September. That's how I met Trey the Trash Man, because I commentated doubles bracket with him there. So he invited a lot of people out from the Midwest, NorCal, the South, other places like that. That's how I met a lot of those people. And he comes over from Trail. He houses them there. So yeah, there's like this whole network that Trail's able to fund here because he has a big time job and he likes to fly people out, especially Ganon mates, especially. So yeah, that's how I met him. Yeah, shout out to Trail if you're watching. He's a big fan of what he does with the 1-up scene as well around Massachusetts and Connecticut.
That's really cool, because I was going to say Skurzo is not East Coast if he's from Illinois. So what gives? How do you know? But Skurzo comes out to Mass Madnesses or to big Massachusetts events. Let's go.
Yeah, it's because like do you know Trail very well? Because I can kind of elaborate
I do
more.
not.
Yeah. So Trail is an old school player. He's originally from Chicago, that explains his roots there. So when he moved to New England in 2017, he was living in, like, I think he started out in Maine, I think. So he was in Maine. So he had a lot of connection to the Midwest. He eventually moved over to Connecticut/Southern Mass. That's where he is these days. So yeah, he knows a lot of people in the Midwest. That's why I met a lot of people like Joey Donuts. I met No Fluxes at the Invitational, Trey from NorCal. A lot of people like from that connection of network that Trail has. That's kind of how I kind of grew that network from there. Yeah, Trail is a very intelligible person, also has like a bunch of dreams, kind of I think found his own esports org eventually, which could be a kind of cool thing one day as he kind of puts in the work, you know.
Awesome. Yes. Well,
Mhm.
I mean, all chat esports starts somewhere, little things,
Exactly.
acquiring some players, some talent,
Mhm.
if you will. And hey,
Exactly.
Slumlord's, kind of turned into a little bit of a talent. So let's go, Slumlord.
Yeah. Slumlord being a little bit of an esports mogul star now. He's brought on, I say all chat be bats because it like kind of has a good rhythm to it. Now we got JFlex, who is so talented in his Slippy name. I don't know if because that's what his thing is on Slippy. He'll host a lobby and his things just says so talented and like that's really good. And you have Hada, who's like the main caster of all chat. Then it's like because like the all chat rotation of casters, it's like Hada, who's the official all chat guy. Then it's like Trey, then myself. That's like kind of the circle right now that we work with. I'm not with all chat properly, but like I'm associated with them at the very least. There's some other people as well we bring on here and there. So yeah, all chat
Assistant to the all chat people.
pretty much like
Sorry.
we could say like intern, I guess, basically right now starting out. Past Salt my last move was the interview. You were good. It's like, all right, we'll keep working for a little bit and see what we think a couple weeks or months from now. So yeah, no, it's a good team. Like genuinely, I think it's going to be an org that'll grow more in time. It was cool. They got to kind of have a sidechain for Giga Schwab. They have a nightclub sidechain for those who don't know. They do a lot of giveaways. They have a lot of cool stuff on social media. Hada does a caster class, which is like where he sits down with a commentator. He did one with Logan recently, where they talked about like they did like an hour and a half commentary coaching session, which I think is a really cool thing. I think commentary coaching is a thing that people should really look into because they already have player coaching out there. I think if you really want to get more into casting, like definitely like, get a couple VODs out there, do a couple tournaments, and then like kind of either you watch them back or talk to a friend about it and see what they think. And I feel like eventually you get to that level. Yeah, look into commentator coaching. It could be a lot of fun. You can learn something about yourself you didn't know before, things you can think about next time around a block when you think about when that coach tells you what to do. So I think it's gonna be good. I'm not sure if I'll be on that eventually. Probably eventually. Not for a while, I'd imagine, because there's probably a whole list of people they're gonna work with for caster class of Hada. So it's a really cool idea. So yeah, they also upload their VODs there too from tournaments as well, like match by match VODs. It's a really good org, I'd say so far. Starting out early, gotta start somewhere, but they'll keep growing. I'm confident in Slum and the gang.
Yes, and hey, look, I mean, it's really cool that they're doing a Salt Mine net play bracket every week and having a $250 prize pool. That's pretty good for a weekly, for
Yeah,
online, and most of the time, or all the time, it's free to enter. So, hey, that's pretty cool. That's pretty nice.
especially a newer org too, because I think when was their Twitter made? Look when their Twitter was made. It
That's
was
a
like
W.
summer. Yeah, so All Chat Esports was founded on Twitter, and I believe like August 2021.
On Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, August 21 it was made on Twitter. That's what I see. But yeah, they do they've been around for a little bit. But I think it's like I said, they'll grow in time. I'm confident in them. But it's cool to see seeing them like just do so much work early on. Is like have like the steady base they can just keep working with.
It's inspiring. Yes.
Yes, aspiring for creators for people like Trill who want to find an esports work basically. Hey Roy, if you're watching, just let me know.
Come on, Trail. Okay, so,
I will
Stel,
leave.
before we get you going here, I think the last thing to sort of tie this all together in regards to a storyline is, would you say you like where your storyline is right now?
Like my own personal storyline. So is that a yes? I'm seeing a yes. I think it's like kind of getting started. I feel like for the new year. I mean, I feel like I was like kind of finding my way a little bit more after SmashCon last year. It's kind of like I guess like the real beginning is like how that all happened with the vlog and the impromptu commentary block that I had for top 16 because it happened in the span of 15 minutes. For those who don't know that story, like I'll elaborate on that for those who don't know. SmashCon 2021 Fall Fest Day 3. I was up till 4 a.m. having a good time with like Kid Boogie, Hat, the MDVATO, a bunch of other people I met at the event. I was with Hugs at a restaurant like around like 10 p.m. that night. A bunch of people as well. It was me, Hugs, husband was there, Nintendo, Hat, other people, other homies were there. It was a great time. And I wake up at like 10 a.m. I go to play Melee with a local, that guy from MDVA. We're just chilling. Then a New England TO and a production guy walk up to our set and go, "Hey, you're a commentator, right?" And I'm like, yeah. Okay, you want to do top 16? And I'm like, what? So in the span of 15 minutes of playing Melee, I'm then commenting Melee for top 16 with little to no prep with a new guy, which is Speedy Sloth, who I just met then, and we just went on and had that block. It was a lot of fun too. I remember people were saying how good I did, and I'm like, oh, thank God that went well. And that kind of like reminded me, it's like, I should just keep going in, because I had commented a couple locals by that point. I had done the Trail Invitational doubles by that point as well, so I was feeling like pretty all right. These are things I've learned since then too, when it comes to commentary. But yeah, but like how it's kind of progressed since then, if I've kind of gone more in on Melee in general, both like kind of making a plan to go to events and cast at events, and then now making content more so from like the IRL POV, the commentary POV, unique like YouTube/Twitch POV. As long as I kind of what I want to do is just like stay on that and stay consistent, so I don't fall off and just like lose the storyline entirely. Because the story that I want to tell this year is showing that I'm a guy who comes from New England with not a lot of connections that could eventually kind of make it to the big time, basically, whether that be commenting at a major like Genesis or Big House, or just like making a whole new network of people that support and follow me on Twitch/YouTube. Like that is a story that I want to tell, whether it's just through Melee, whether it's through both niches that I have in Melee and JRPGs, or the other one. That's fine. And I think it's off to a good start right now. I've made a connection with All Chat, which is really cool. Hopefully that continues to grow from there at time of recording. We'll see. But being able to just like be involved in some way, and it's like, being in demand, because like so at time of recording, I commentated a tournament Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's 3 commentary dates in like a short span of time too, and there will be more. My goal is to at least commentate 2 brackets a week, or usually at least 1, but ideally 2 would be a good sweet spot. Whether it be a 1-up Melee online, whether it be a nightclub side bracket, whether it be garbage connection, salt mine, something like that. As long as I can just continue to build that resume and develop more as a creator, caster, and streamer, and just see that reward for the content that I make, then that is a good story to tell. And at the end of the year, I can make a whole reflection video about it, like saying, this is how I did it. Here's how you at home can do it too. Kind of make a very hair seller kind of video.
Woohoo! I love all those things. So let's tell the people once more where they can find you, Stel.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you enjoyed, well, 1, thank you for watching all the way through. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it is Stelios_TTV, and my Twitch is also Stelios with 2 underscores afterward, and I have a link tree on my Twitter as well. I'm going to update it tonight, so if you want to check out there, you can see more of my socials there. I think it's like my Discord server is there if you're interested in that. Always happy to have people join the Stel Hotel Discord. That's my subgroup name as well. I also have, those are the main 2 though. You'll find me there. Discord's like one of my main platforms as well that I talk on. You'll catch me commentating at least places like Salt Mine every Thursday, pop bonuses, giveaways, all the good stuff. All Chat Esports is great. Nightclub, you might see me pop up on Nightclub in the near future. Garbage Connection is I think at least every Friday. It might go into bi-weekly depending on what Trey wants to do. 1-up Melee online, I think it's gonna be moving dates soon. No confirmation from me. That's more of a trail thing. Yeah, I'll be commentating a lot, usually at least 1 or 2 brackets a week. Follow me on Twitch. I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, ideally subject to change because of commentary blocks. But yeah, that's what I do. I stream Melee. I play Japanese RPGs. I have a lot of fun. Melee is great. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And Jesse, you want to take it back away?
Yeah, I got you. Let's also make sure we need to free the Stelios YouTube channel. We cannot have Stel out here talking about all these amazing places where you can find him and not be able to just say youtube.com/c/Stelios_TTV or Stelios__ like it is for the Twitch. Instead, this is what we have right now. So by the time I'm done reading this, it better be 100+ subscribers. youtube.com/UCBGDGAX2AX2YAAEANPK52UA. It'll be in the description down below if you didn't remember all that. But let's go ahead and make it 100 subscribers. Let's go.
Yeah, it's slowly working its way up. It's slowly going up there. Ideally, so YouTube schedule is usually at least 1 video a week right now. Usually 1 YouTube short, depends on because we usually make a YouTube short after the video that we release. But the last one with the Hugs video didn't really have a shortable moment in my opinion. But the one this week should have a short. I have some unique shorts I want to kind of take from my streams. I need to trim them down though because my execution is that I'll watch a VOD back. Hey, that's a good moment to short. Let's clip it down, and I send it to my editors to work on because I have 2 editors that I have edit stuff for me. But that's more of an offshoot thing to talk about. But yeah, youtube.com/Stelios. Just type in Stelios Twitch in the search. You should find my channel in some way. That's the easy way to find it. But yeah, that's where I am. YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Twitter, all on those platforms. There's a link tree as well. Probably I'll send it to Jesse just in case too.
Yep.
That's all from me.
It is in the description below. Stel, thank you so much for joining me on Bottom of Smash Mountain.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. Happy you invited me again, Jesse. Everybody watching, thank you once more, and we'll see you next time.